Hey, what's up, group? This is Vincent with Green Joe Coffee School. We help people start mobile coffee businesses, carts, trucks, and trailers. So I want to talk a little bit about today and the 4 different ways that you can make money off of a mobile coffee business in 2025. So there's the mobile coffee industry has a couple different unique ways that you can make income that are different than the brick and mortar. I've had both, and so I have experience kind of in both these realms. And one of the beautiful things to mobile coffee is they offer catering, and it's typically not a revenue stream that I see with a lot of brick and mortar coffee shops. But let's go over before we kind of jump there, let's go over the 4 different ways you can make money. So, first and foremost, there's what I call stationary. It's where you set up, like, you can do a street corner, you can go down to your local Home Depot. Some people try to do like a drive-through model, but you set up in one location and have people come to you. Stationary model. So the other counterpart to that is a route, and I've done routes, and the routes, I don't think you have the potential of making as much money, but what's really nice about routes is they tend to be a little bit more steady. So I do like that, and you tend to get off a little earlier. So a route would be like what's some good routes that we've done. We did a daycare, and we started a daycare off in the morning, because daycares you can get in there about 6 o'clock, and there's already staff there and parents coming through. So daycare, elementary school, medical offices, and then banks. And so we've hit those 4, and then you're off by noon, basically. So that's the other way of making money other than stationary. And so one of the ideas that I haven't seen yet, and I've always been real curious to see if anybody does it, or if anyone's making some money out of it. But I've always thought of the idea of doing a route like in a local neighborhood, kind of like the old school ice cream trucks that would come through, like blaring their music, and kids would come running out. I always thought, man, that'd be cool to do like a coffee truck, similar model, but maybe text people in the morning, or do like a door-to-door campaign before you before you head to that neighborhood, and collect names and text or phone numbers, so you can text them and be like, I'm going to your neighborhood, do you want coffee? But anyways, so yeah, so stationary and routes, those are the two. And then there's festival work, or like large volume work is what I tend to call it. That's where you do like 5Ks and festivals, and big congregations of people where you're dealing with the public. And then the last one that we talked a little bit earlier about this was catering. And catering is where you have one person that purchases a lot of coffee for their folks, whoever that might be. So it's like a PTA that purchases coffee for their teachers, or maybe a real estate broker that purchases coffee for all his staff, that type of thing. So those are basically the 4 different ways to make revenue. And it's important, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's part of the business plan. Whenever you're developing a business plan, it's important to kind of pick that model, really, because you're going to be looking at a different menu and different equipment based upon that model. So if you're doing catering, then you want to be able to go indoors and do indoor caterings like weddings, which means you're most likely going to be looking at 120-volt espresso machines, as opposed to if you're doing festival work where you're doing large volume, you're really going to want that steam output from a 240 volt espresso machine. So and the menu is going to change as well. If I'm doing indoor catering, I might, and especially for like weddings, that's my main thing, then I might have a different menu that's specialized for the bride, or something like that, versus if I'm doing big festival work, I might limit my menu to a couple different drinks so that I can kind of pump out the drinks a little bit faster. So I think it is important to look at things like target audience. I know those are kind of keywords that they throw around a lot, but really just looking at like, how am I going to make money doing this? And then kind of gathering your mind on that, so that you can focus on what equipment and what menu and that type of thing that you're going to need to launch this business. So my name is Vince. This is Green Joe Coffee School. We got a bunch of resources on our website, ebooks and courses and that type of stuff. So check us out there, greenjoecoffeeschool.com. Thanks for checking in there. And I'll see you on the next video.